You cannot live your life by how you feel and expect to walk in power, because feelings change, power doesn't. One moment you feel confident, the next you feel lost. One day you're ready to conquer the world, the next you're ready to give up. And this cycle keeps many people weak, reactive, and spiritually dry because they let feelings become their master. But today, I want to challenge you, stop being controlled by feelings and rise in spiritual power. Because emotional control is not suppression, it's dominion. And dominion is the highest evidence of spiritual maturity. Let's go deeper. Your feelings are real, but they're not always right. You can't deny emotions. They're part of your human design. They speak, they shout, they whisper, and sometimes they overwhelm. But feelings were never meant to lead your life. They were meant to inform it. You can't build a strong future on unstable emotions. Feelings change like the weather. They shift with mood, circumstance, and opinion. One moment you're confident, the next you're questioning everything. One day you love your job, the next day you hate it. One moment you're motivated to chase your dream, the next you're too tired to even care. And that's the trap. When you allow feelings to rule, your life becomes inconsistent, your growth becomes unpredictable, and your peace becomes negotiable. There are people who wake up excited about life, but go to bed defeated because they allowed one emotion to rewrite their entire day. They allowed a moment of frustration to define their direction, a word from someone to control their worth, a failure to convince them they're not good enough. The truth is, your emotions don't know your destiny. They only know your present discomfort. Feelings are reactive, they respond to the moment. But purpose is proactive. It looks beyond the moment. When you start following feelings instead of vision, you end up living a life built on reactions, not intentions. Think about it. How many decisions have you made just because you felt like it, only to regret it later? You texted when you should have stayed silent. You quit when you should have persisted. You spoke out of anger when patience would have brought peace. That's what happens when emotions take the driver's seat. Your life starts going in circles because feelings have no sense of direction. They only know impulse. And impulse will always cost you more than patience ever will. You can't trust your emotions to lead you because emotions are like waves. They rise, they fall, they crash. Some days they lift you high, and other days they pull you under. If you let those waves lead you, you'll drown in inconsistency. But when you learn to stand firm, to anchor yourself in principle rather than mood, the waves can come, but they won't move you. You'll feel the wind, but you won't be carried by it. You can feel tired and still keep going. You can feel scared and still act brave. You can feel hurt and still choose love. That's maturity. That's strength. That's dominion. The most powerful people in this world are not the ones who feel the least. They're the ones who've learned how to manage what they feel. They've learned to say, yes, I feel it, but I won't follow it. Because the difference between emotional people and powerful people is simple. Emotional people react, powerful people respond. Every successful person you admire has learned to separate feeling from function. The athlete doesn't always feel like training, but they show up anyway. The entrepreneur doesn't always feel inspired, but they build anyway. The parent doesn't always feel patient, but they love anyway. The person of purpose doesn't wait for motivation. They move with discipline. Because they understand that feelings may start the engine, but discipline keeps the vehicle moving. If you only act when you feel like it, you'll never see greatness. Because your emotions will never consistently align with your purpose. Feelings whisper excuses. Purpose demands action. Emotions want comfort. Purpose demands sacrifice. And somewhere between how you feel and what you're called to do, you must decide who's in control. When you let feelings lead, you live small. But when you let principle lead, you live strong. Think about it. How many dreams have died in emotional moments? How many opportunities were missed because of temporary feelings? People quit jobs they were meant to grow in. They walk away from relationships that could have healed with time. They speak words that can't be taken back, all because they felt something in a moment. Feelings are powerful, but they're not always truthful. They often magnify pain and minimize perspective. There will be days when you don't feel valuable, even though you are. Days when you don't feel loved, even though you're deeply cared for. Days when you don't feel like you're moving forward, even though progress is happening beneath the surface. That's why you can't measure truth by emotion. Truth doesn't change when your mood does. Reality doesn't shift because your heart is tired. A pilot can't depend on how he feels while flying through a storm. He depends on his instruments. He trusts what's fixed when what's visible is chaotic. That's how life works. When your emotions cloud your view, you have to trust what's constant: your values, your vision, your purpose. Those are your instruments. They keep you flying straight when feelings try to make you crash. Feelings will tempt you to respond to every offense, to defend yourself against every critic, to panic when things look uncertain. But real strength is restraint. Real maturity is choosing not to let emotion dictate your direction. Sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do is stay silent when everything in you wants to react. Sometimes it's to keep building when everything in you wants to quit. You cannot escape emotions, but you can master them. And mastery doesn't mean suppression. It means understanding. It means being aware enough to feel, wise enough to pause, and strong enough to choose differently. It means you stop asking, "How do I feel?" and start asking, "What's right to do?" Because the moment you stop living by emotion and start living by conviction, that's when you truly rise in power. Your feelings may be real, but they don't always reveal reality. You are not your emotions. You are the one who commands them. You are not meant to be moved by every wave that comes. You were built to walk on water. Power flows where control exists. Every time you lose control, you leak power. You can't lead others if you can't lead yourself. You can't speak peace if your emotions are always in chaos. You can't carry authority if your reactions are stronger than your reason. True power isn't shown in how loud you can be. It's shown in how calm you can remain when everything around you is shaking. It's easy to appear powerful when everything is peaceful. But your real power is revealed when pressure comes. That's when we see what governs you, your emotions or your spirit. Look at life closely. The person who can stay composed in the middle of crisis always ends up leading those who panic. The person who can think clearly when others are screaming ends up finding the solution. Control doesn't mean you don't feel pain. It means you don't allow pain to make your decisions. It means you have trained yourself to respond with wisdom instead of reaction, because every reaction costs energy, and every loss of energy weakens your focus. You can't build power on a foundation of impulse. Impulse burns fast and leaves ashes. Control builds steadily and produces strength. The people who accomplish the most in life are not necessarily the most talented. They are the most disciplined. They understand that control creates flow. When your emotions are all over the place, your energy is scattered. But when your emotions are trained, your energy becomes focused, and focused energy is unstoppable. Imagine a river without banks. It floods everything, it destroys everything in its path. But when that same river has boundaries, it becomes powerful enough to generate electricity, to move turbines, to bring life to cities. That's the difference between emotion and discipline. Uncontrolled emotion floods your life. Controlled emotion fuels it. Control doesn't limit power, it channels it. You see this in everyday life. Think of a professional athlete. They train not just their body, but their mind. They teach themselves to stay calm under pressure, to breathe when their body screams to quit, to stay focused when fatigue tells them to give up. That control gives them the power to outperform those who rely only on talent. The same principle applies to leadership, relationships, business, or spiritual growth. The moment you learn to govern yourself, life begins to obey your voice. Most people think strength is about aggression, but strength is really about restraint. It's about knowing when to move and when to wait, when to speak and when to stay silent when to fight, and when to walk away. That's why powerful people are not easily provoked. They've learned that anger is expensive and peace is priceless. They've learned that losing control, even for 1 minute, can cost you opportunities, trust, and influence that took years to build. There are people who can't keep jobs, not because they lack skill, but because they can't control their mouth. There are people who lose relationships, not because they're bad people, but because they never learn to control their temper. There are people who never finish what they start, not because they lack vision, but because they can't control their emotions when the excitement fades. Power doesn't stay with the talented, it stays with the disciplined. When you master control, you become unshakable. People will try to trigger you, but they won't move you. Life will test you, but you'll stay steady. That's when you become dangerous, not to people, but to doubt, to fear, to instability. Because nothing is more powerful than a person who has mastered their emotions. That's why storms don't scare them anymore. They've learned that storms don't last, but control does. Look at the workplace. 2 people face the same challenge. One complains, one adapts, one reacts, one responds. One drains energy, one attracts solutions. Who do you think rises faster? Control determines altitude. The more control you have over yourself, the higher you can go. Because power respects order. Even electricity needs a system to flow through. The same applies to your life. Your energy needs order. When you learn to stay calm when others are losing their minds, you become the center of influence. People are drawn to stability. They may not always say it, but they trust those who don't crumble under pressure. Every great leader understands that power comes from composure. The calmer you are, the clearer you think. The clearer you think, the better you decide. The better you decide, the more control you gain. It's a divine cycle of growth that keeps compounding. Every time you choose patience over reaction, you grow in power. Every time you choose peace over panic, you become stronger. Every time you hold your tongue when you could destroy with words, you rise in maturity. Power flows through people who can govern themselves. That's why not everyone can carry influence. It's too heavy for the undisciplined. Control is not the absence of emotion. It's the mastery of it. It's saying, I acknowledge how I feel, but I will act from wisdom, not impulse. It's when you feel anger, but choose understanding. It's when you feel fear, but choose courage. It's when you feel tired, but keep going anyway. That's when life begins to respond to you, because the universe respects order. And when your internal world is in order, your external world aligns. Some people think control is cold or robotic, but it's actually the highest form of freedom. Because when you have control, no one can manipulate you. You're not swayed by opinions, not destroyed by criticism, not addicted to approval. You move from being emotionally reactive to being spiritually directive. You stop being the thermometer that changes with the temperature and become the thermostat that sets it. That's what makes certain people stand out. They carry peace into chaos, direction into confusion, and wisdom into noise. They're not loud, but their presence speaks. They don't need to fight for attention. They command it through composure. They don't chase control of others. They master control of themselves. And in mastering themselves, they unlock a flow of power that no one can take away. Spiritual power doesn't come from excitement. It comes from alignment. Too many people mistake emotional highs for spiritual strength. They think that feeling inspired is the same as being transformed. But excitement fades the moment pressure arrives. You can shout in the moment of motivation, but what happens when the lights go off and life gets quiet again? What happens when no one is clapping for you, when no one is encouraging you, when the rush is gone? That's when you find out whether your power was built on excitement or alignment. Excitement makes you feel good. Alignment makes you unshakable. There are people who start their week on fire, posting quotes, declaring change, making plans. But by Wednesday, they've lost the energy. Why? Because they were fueled by emotion, not conviction. You don't rise in power by feeling good for a moment. You rise by being grounded in something deeper than emotion. Excitement is like a spark. It lights fast but burns out quickly. Alignment is like a steady flame. It doesn't flash, but it endures. When your life is in alignment, your spirit, your thoughts, your actions, and your words move in the same direction. You stop living in conflict with yourself. You stop saying one thing and doing another. You stop praying for strength while entertaining distractions that weaken you. Alignment is when what you say, what you think, and what you do finally agree. That's where true power begins, when you stop being double-minded. A car can have a full tank of gas and a powerful engine, but if its wheels are out of alignment, it will drift, wear down, and eventually break. That's how many people live, full of potential but out of alignment. They have dreams, but they keep moving sideways. They have vision, but their focus is scattered. They pray for success, but live in habits that sabotage it. They say they want peace, but hold on to bitterness. They want growth, but resist change. They want destiny, but avoid discipline. And the truth is, you cannot rise higher than the level of your alignment. Excitement gives you a moment. Alignment gives you momentum. That's why people who live by excitement keep starting over. They're always looking for a new rush, a new idea, a new feeling to stay motivated. But those who live in alignment don't chase moments. They build movements. Their power doesn't depend on emotion, it depends on order. They can have quiet seasons and still move forward. They can face disappointment and still stay grounded. Because alignment gives you direction even when emotion disappears. Think about a tree. It doesn't grow because of excitement. It grows because its roots are aligned with the soil. It's consistent even when the weather changes. That's what alignment does. It grounds you so that temporary changes don't uproot your growth. When you are spiritually aligned, storms may bend you, but they won't break you. You may have moments of weakness, but you won't lose your way. Some people confuse activity with alignment. They're busy but not effective. They're moving fast but not forward. They keep doing more, hoping that motion will fill the void of direction. But when you're not aligned, speed only gets you lost faster. You can't be productive when you're disconnected from purpose. True spiritual power doesn't come from doing more. It comes from doing what aligns with who you are meant to be. When you are aligned, you start to attract what belongs to your path and lose what doesn't. Opportunities begin to find you because you're finally moving in the right direction. You no longer chase what's not for you. You align with what fits your design. Alignment sharpens your discernment. It helps you see what's real, what's right, and what's worth your energy. When you're aligned, you don't waste time trying to prove yourself to people who can't see your value. You don't explain your vision to those who are blind to your growth. You simply stay focused and let your results speak. Daily life is full of opportunities to test your alignment. You'll face distractions that look good but don't fit your purpose. You'll feel pressure to compromise your values just to feel accepted. You'll be tempted to say yes to things that sound exciting but lead nowhere. But every time you choose alignment over excitement, you gain strength. Every time you say, "This looks good, but it's not good for me," you build spiritual muscle. Every time you choose discipline over impulse, you rise in power. Think of a musician tuning their instrument. If the strings are off, the sound will be wrong no matter how passionately they play. That's how your life works. Passion can't replace precision. You can't produce harmony while you're out of tune. And no matter how much emotion you bring, if you're not aligned, your results will always be off key. The world glorifies hype, but heaven honors harmony. Excitement will make people notice you, but alignment will make people respect you. Excitement will get you applause. Alignment will get you authority, because power isn't about energy, it's about structure. It's about living in rhythm with your purpose, your principles, and your priorities. When you're aligned, you stop chasing the next emotional thrill and start building something eternal. You've probably seen people who attend a motivational seminar, feel unstoppable for 3 days, and then return to the same life. That's excitement. But the ones who actually change are those who come home, organize their minds, set new routines, adjust their habits, and follow through every day. That's alignment. Excitement gives you a high, alignment gives you a habit. There will be seasons where nothing feels thrilling. No spotlight, no applause, no recognition. Those seasons reveal your alignment. When no one sees you but you keep showing up, when you're tired but still committed, when you're unseen but still faithful. That's the power that builds leaders, not followers. Because power doesn't come from emotional reaction. It comes from disciplined alignment. When your spirit, mind, and actions align, you become unstoppable. Nothing outside can break what's synchronized inside. You stop being swayed by moods, by trends, by pressure, by people's opinions. You walk in clarity, not confusion. You move with intention, not impulse. You live from conviction, not convenience. That's when power starts to flow naturally through you, not as a feeling, but as a force. The mature spirit rises above emotion. Life will always test what governs you, your feelings or your wisdom. Every day, you wake up to a war inside you, the urge to react versus the call to respond, the desire to give up versus the voice that says, keep going. Maturity is not about age, it's about mastery. It's the point where you no longer allow temporary feelings to dictate permanent actions. The mature spirit understands that emotions are visitors, not masters. They come and go, but your purpose must remain constant. Think about how easily we allow emotions to hijack our peace. A comment on social media ruins our whole day. One argument steals our focus. One disappointment makes us doubt everything we've worked for. That's how fragile many people's lives are, completely dependent on how they feel at a given moment. But you can't rise in life if your emotions decide your direction. You can't build stability on feelings that change every few hours. A mature spirit says, I may feel it, but I refuse to be ruled by it. The mature spirit doesn't deny emotions, it disciplines them. It feels pain, but doesn't let pain paralyze purpose. It feels anger, but doesn't let anger destroy wisdom. It feels fear, but doesn't let fear silence faith. There are moments when everything in you wants to break down, scream, or quit, but the mature spirit whispers, not today. It knows that reacting emotionally might give relief for a moment, but responding with wisdom builds peace that lasts. In daily life, you see this difference everywhere. Two people face the same betrayal. One lashes out, burns bridges, and carries bitterness for years. The other forgives, learns, and keeps moving forward. The situation was the same, but the response was different. The mature spirit doesn't waste time trying to prove a point. It preserves energy for the next purpose. You can't stop people from hurting you, but you can stop them from controlling your response. That's where your power is, not in changing what happens to you, but in mastering what happens within you. Emotions are like storms. They come strong, but they don't last forever. Immature people try to fight the storm. Mature people learn to stand through it. They know that peace is not the absence of chaos, it's the ability to stay calm in it. The mature spirit understands that every storm carries a lesson, and once you learn it, you never fear the same storm again. Every trial you master emotionally becomes a weapon for your next victory. Have you ever noticed how peace irritates people who are emotional? When you stop reacting, people who thrive on drama lose their control over you. That's when you know you've grown, when silence feels stronger than shouting, when peace feels more satisfying than proving yourself right. The mature spirit doesn't argue for validation, it operates from revelation. It knows who it is, so it doesn't need approval to feel secure. Every day, life gives you choices to be offended or to overlook, to react or to reflect, to hold on or to release. The immature spirit always chooses what feels good in the moment, but the mature spirit chooses what's right for the future. That's why maturity is rare. It requires self-awareness and self-control. It's easy to explode. It takes power to stay composed. The loudest person in the room is not the strongest one. The strongest one is the one who can walk away without losing peace. In relationships, The mature spirit doesn't play emotional games. It doesn't use silence to punish or anger to control. It communicates clearly because it values peace over ego. It doesn't need to win every argument because it understands that peace is a higher victory. When your spirit matures, you stop reacting to immaturity. You stop expecting depth from shallow people. You stop trying to explain your growth to those who still enjoy chaos. Every time you choose patience over panic, you rise. Every time you choose peace over pride, you grow. Every time you choose forgiveness over revenge, you gain spiritual power. These moments of emotional mastery are the real signs of maturity. They show that you're no longer living by impulse, but by intention. You're no longer controlled by moods, but guided by meaning. A mature spirit knows that not everything deserves a reaction. Some things deserve your silence. Some things deserve your stillness. You can't win every battle that demands your attention. Some battles are distractions dressed as challenges. Wisdom knows the difference. The mature spirit guards its energy because it understands that focus is fuel. When you lose focus to emotions, you lose power to progress. Think of an eagle. When the storm comes, it doesn't run, it doesn't hide. It spreads its wings and rises above the wind. The same wind that scares other birds is the one that lifts the eagle higher. That's what emotional maturity does. It transforms pressure into power. It doesn't wait for calm skies. It learns to soar through turbulence. The storm doesn't destroy the eagle. It defines it. People will always test your emotions. Life will always test your patience. Circumstances will always test your composure. But the mature spirit learns that not every test is meant to break you. Some are meant to reveal you. They show you who you really are when the mask of comfort is removed. They show you what kind of power you carry when your feelings scream for attention. Every time you rise above, you prove that your spirit is stronger than your emotions. Emotional maturity is a form of power that no one can take from you. When you stop reacting to everything, you start attracting what truly belongs to your peace. You begin to see that not every loss is a curse, not every silence is rejection, not every ending is failure. The mature spirit sees beyond the moment. It sees the purpose in the pain, the strength in the struggle, the clarity in the confusion. That's why it can stay calm when others panic, hopeful when others doubt, and focused when others fall apart. The mature spirit doesn't need everything to make sense. It just needs to stay centered. It knows that peace is not found in perfect situations, but in a grounded soul. And when you live from that place, emotions stop dictating your behavior. They start serving your growth. You feel everything, but you are mastered by nothing. You rise above what tries to pull you down, and in that rise you discover who you truly are. Life will always give you moments that test the strength of your spirit. There will be times when your emotions scream louder than your purpose, when fear whispers louder than faith, when pain demands your attention louder than peace. But you must remember, storms were never designed to sink you. They were designed to reveal what you carry within you. Every challenge you face is a mirror, showing you how much control, courage, and clarity you truly have. The greatest power is not found in avoiding the storm, but in standing still in the middle of it, unshaken, unbroken, and unmoved. People may misunderstand your calmness as weakness, but peace is the loudest sound in the room full of chaos. Maturity doesn't shout, it stands. Power doesn't panic, it plans. And true spiritual growth doesn't react, it responds with wisdom. You have to reach a point where you can say, I've been through too much to lose myself to emotions again. Because when you've fought battles within yourself, when you've survived seasons that tried to break your mind, when you've rebuilt peace after storms, you no longer chase validation, you become your own validation. There's something powerful about a person who no longer allows emotions to dictate destiny. You walk different. You speak different. You don't get triggered by the same things. You don't respond to nonsense. You begin to value peace more than people's opinions, direction more than distraction, and purpose more than popularity. That's when you rise in true power, not the kind that needs applause, but the kind that moves mountains quietly. Because when you carry peace inside, the world outside can't shake you. Every time you choose calmness when you could have reacted, you're building spiritual muscle. Every time you choose forgiveness when you could have fought back, you're proving maturity. Every time you keep moving forward when your emotions beg you to quit, you're walking in greatness. Power doesn't come from avoiding feelings. It comes from mastering them. Because once you can lead yourself, you can lead nations. Once you can control your emotions, you can shape your world. You must reach that stage in life where you say, I don't chase peace anymore. I am peace. Where your presence changes the atmosphere. Where your stillness confuses your enemies because they expected you to break, but instead you built. They expected you to cry, but instead you rose. They expected you to fall, but instead you found strength in the same place they thought would destroy you. That's what rising in spiritual power looks like. It's when your peace becomes your weapon, your patience becomes your strategy, and your self-control becomes your crown. The world doesn't need more emotional people. It needs grounded ones. People who can think clearly when others are panicking. People who can lead with stability when others are driven by fear. People who don't just speak of power, but live it in silence. You must become that kind of person. The one who doesn't need to prove strength, because strength is proven in your posture. The one who doesn't need to control others, because you've mastered control of yourself. There will come a time when you realize that not everything deserves your reaction. Some things only deserve your peace. Not every argument deserves your voice. Some deserve your silence. Not every loss is a setback. Some are a setup for the next level. When you learn that, you stop living emotionally and start living intentionally. You stop asking, why is this happening to me? And start saying, what is this teaching me? That's when life begins to flow differently. That's when everything changes, not outside, but within. Remember, this calm is not weakness, it's wisdom. Silence is not surrender, it's strategy. Stillness is not stagnation, it's strength under control. The person who can stay calm when the world expects chaos holds the greatest form of power. Because you're no longer moved by what happens. You move what happens. You're no longer reacting to life. You're directing it. You've stepped from emotion into evolution. So when you face those moments where you feel overwhelmed, take a deep breath and remind yourself, I've come too far to let feelings rule me. I lead my life. I command my peace. I rise above what tries to control me. Because no matter how heavy the pressure, no matter how loud the pain, no matter how strong the storm, nothing can stop a person who has mastered their inner world. The one who conquers within conquers everything. You don't need to feel powerful to be powerful. You just need to stay aligned, stay composed, and stay faithful. The greatest statement you can ever make to life is silent strength. Let your calmness be your confidence. Let your consistency be your proof.